Hey yo, what's going on though? Soul here and welcome back to my story mode. So for the most part, we are going to try to stay back on track with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet content this week. Yesterday was a little bit of an exception. I had made that video the previous week, but I didn't know if I wanted to put it out yet. And I also kind of got into a hectic weekend, so I decided to just kind of save that for Monday so that it could give me time to work on the next video and the video after that. So thank you for being patient. I know there's a lot of you that were like, what in the world is this? I don't want to talk about Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl no more. And hey, guess what, sport? Me neither. So we're not gonna. Much like the rest of you, I want to continue to speculate and break down the possibilities of this new possible era of Pokemon. And one of those many possibilities regarding Scarlet and Violet is, you guessed it, the post-game content. Now some of you may be thinking, whoa, so, back up now. Isn't it a little too early to be talking about the post-game of a game that we don't even know contains a reasonable amount of content yet? And you know, usually I wouldn't fight you on that because you're probably not wrong. We don't know anything about these games, so talking about the post-content would probably be crazy, right? But I'm telling you right now, once I get to my first point, I think all of you, or at least most of you, will have a general idea as to why I'm bringing this up right now. Usually in these situations, for the post-game, we rely on some kind of online competitive and shiny hunting in our after-game, which is fine in of itself, but I'm talking about everything that happens before we've damn near 100%ed the game. With the exception of the Revisit to Generation 4, most mainline Pokemon games have access to both of those features. Going into new generational games like Scarlet and Violet, that's not something that we ever have to worry about, so that's not exactly what we're going to be focusing on today. And if you're starting to get a little curious about what I am rambling on about, why don't you go ahead, kick your feet up, and listen to what I have to say regarding the post-game situation in Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. Now my first point here can be very subjective, however, I'm sure that plenty of you will agree to the fact that the current post-game that we have in most of the mainline Pokemon games is a tad tired. Within every mainline Pokemon game, we always end up rerouting to the same exact final challenge, which is going around and collecting every legendary Pokemon available in that game. Which to an extent is fine. It's not like I want them to get rid of that. It is a fine challenge for endgame content so that you can use these legendary Pokemon in other challenges so that you're not cheating your way through the main story. It makes sense. So it can be fun for a certain amount of time, but after a while it just starts to get really repetitive. Especially in certain games where even after you've caught all of the legendaries, there's really nothing to do with them. Hell, even before this last update, even Pokemon Legends was a prime culprit in this case. Eventually, even with this brand new style of Pokemon game, we ended up resorting to the same thing: collect all Pokemon. And sure, there was a fun little twist to include to turn it into plot, which, you know, I guess is a little bit of a spoiler, but it's been long enough now. But in reality, it all just kind of fizzled into the same thing. The only primary difference is, again, I guess spoiler alert, we get to go hand to hand in combat with God, which is awesome, but that was pretty much it. Again, it's totally fine to have the aftergame, but it kind of sucks to get all of these Pokemon and then have pretty much nothing to do with them. Once you get Arceus in that game, you don't really have much else to do. And another thing to not get twisted, I love having the legendaries on deck, sure, but we've done this so many times in the past before that at this point, a lot of us have multiple copies of the exact same legendaries in Pokemon Home right now. So on the off chance one of these legendaries so happens to be a shiny or just have better general stats than my previous legendaries that I still have sitting in Pokemon Home, it's kind of pointless to have more, but whatever. Anyway, by now I'm sure you get the gist of my jib, if that's a thing. We've done it a lot. Moving on to my next point of something that doesn't happen exactly as often that I want more of: story. Extra after story. To put it bluntly, I simply want more of that. When I say extra story, one of the first thing that comes to mind for me was the Delta episode in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. People have argued time and time again that the Delta episode was absolutely ridiculous, that it was badly written, yada yada yada. Personally, I had a really good time with it. And also growing up, I've come to understand that Pokemon was not fleshed out thoroughly from the get-go, so things kind of just get changed and added in as time goes. And that's okay. Stories change over time, especially for long-running series. I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan, man. I understand how this works. My point is, even if it wasn't the most well-written thing of all time, I appreciate it and think it's really neat, because it added some actual afterstory and concluded the details of certain events that we learned about throughout the game, and that's lovely. Or at the very least, it really tried to do so, but I appreciate the hell out of that effort, and I want more along the lines of that right there. Also, during the midst of this recording, I very briefly remembered the events of the afterstory in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and again, not amazing or perfect in any means, but honestly, I appreciate the effort. And then we don't really talk much about Pokemon Sword and Shield's afterstory because it probably shouldn't have happened, and in my case it didn't, so shut up. However, we did almost end up back on the right path with Pokemon Legends. All I'm gonna say is, the true final battle in Pokemon Legends was crazy, and definitely debatably one of the hardest in the history of this series. And I'm talking like it rivals the final red battle in Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver. Possibly even tops it, but we can debate that another day. And see, anything along the lines of that kind of thing is absolutely dope. I just personally would have liked a better story. You know, one that maybe actually utilized the other characters that went through the entire story with us. Maybe this is just a me thing, but I've noticed with these after stories that they tend to focus on one character at a time. In Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, it was completely about Zinnia. In Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, if I'm remembering correctly, it was pretty much about Lily. In Pokemon Legends, again, I don't know how much y'all know, but it was just one character again. Why? Why don't we actually conclude the stories of every character that we've met in the journey? Why don't we actually have them develop throughout the story, and then we have them come to some sort of crazy conclusion by the end of the game so that we could go on that final journey with them? And if you separate all of the characters that you've, developed throughout the game, we would have a lot more after story to go through and a lot more characters to actually get attached to. Adaman is absolutely one of my favorite characters in the Pokemon series in years, and you're telling me that the only conclusion that he really gets in this game is one final battle and he just gives me the orb that makes Dialga ugly? That's it? He just doesn't change, or nothing happens with him? No crazy revelation? Come on now. As much as I love Pokemon Legends, in reality it fumbled the bag with a lot of characters. Arezu, Mai, Silene, Irida. Come on now, man. That's so many wasted characters. All I'm saying is, hopefully by the time Generation 9 comes around, if there is some extra after story, you should really make sure to include all of the characters that we've introduced up to that point so that we can actually have some kind of conclusion for those characters. Something that actually invests us in them. You guys can develop a lot of very special characters for us that way. Just putting that out there. The last thing that I really want to talk about is the gameplay aspect of the post-game. Now, it's going to be extremely weird to say because we have been praising 8th Gen a lot this past month, but it needs to be put out there that Sword and Shield, gameplay-wise, had some of the best after-game content in a long while. And I'm talking pre-DLC. Think about it for a second. For hours and hours on end, we were going out and doing raids back to back, either by ourselves or alongside friends. Some of us were just shiny hunting, and the other half of us were just getting stronger Pokemon that we could test out in Pokemon Sword and Shield's version of the Battle Tower. I think that's me. I believe that I'm strictly the other half. But eventually, assuming it's fair to count this because it is now part of the game, we did get the update in the DLC, which gave us a lot more content. Debatably, the most content that we've ever received for a single Pokemon game. We could argue to hell and back regarding all of the bad things about Pokemon Sword and Shield, but I will fight you on it if you say that one of those things was the amount of content, because that is just straight up wrong. Should a lot of those things have been included in the original final product? Yes, most likely. I don't think that a lot of that should have been put behind a paywall, but regardless, most of us paid for it, and it made Pokemon Sword and Shield a better game. So, you can fight me on that one all you want, but you can't disagree that it definitely helped the game a lot. And then to top everything off, in the DLC, we also got the introduction to Dynamax Adventures. Something that, had it been included in the base game, we probably would not have stopped for much longer of a time. Anyway, I think you catch my drift by now. We need something very similar to what Pokemon Sword and Shield gave us as far as gameplay content goes. And obviously, I am not talking about raid battling or Dynamax adventures. That is for that game solely. We don't need nothing like that. I'm talking about new concepts. Most of us have already come to the conclusion that whatever this new region brings us is going to be based around a very specific gimmick. Whatever this new gimmick is could possibly shape the main story as well as the aftergame. Personally, I don't care what the gimmick is as long as it's fun and it's something that we can utilize with friends like we did in Sword and Shield. What made those gimmicks and mechanics so interesting in Sword and Shield was the fact that we could experience all of that alongside our friends. We have not had that in 2 whole games now, so I'm just putting it out there. Whatever this new gimmick is, or whatever you guys plan to do, please make it so that we could do it with friends. Also, I see that one person arguing about the Grand Underground in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Stop typing, bro. That doesn't count. Stop typing. Personally, as of this moment, the only thing that I could see them bringing back gameplay-wise for us to participate in with friends is mass outbreaks. And in theory, it's kind of neat, but in action, I'm not really sure how that would work unless we had massive mass outbreaks all the time. So, I don't know. Just a thought I had. But whatever, as long as the new mechanic is fun and we can have fun with our friends, that is all I care about. Just please give us some solid aftergame. That's all I'm asking for. All in all, I guess all I really want is just something to do before delving right into competitive. A real chance to test my new mons out against the game before taking them into the real challenge, other people. And for the most part, the last couple of games have had pretty decent aftergames, so if they could just keep up their streak and just continue to improve and do better, then we will have a solid game on our hands this upcoming winter. But again, I am talking out of my ass because it is extremely soon to conclude whether or not we're going to have good or possibly bad aftergame for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So we'll have to see what happens. So anyway, kind of a weird little you have a plunger, right? Go get that for me real quick. Nice. That looks like a solid plunge. Use that on the toilet for me real quick. Yeah, I know it looks clear. Just plunge into there. Yep. Yeah, I accidentally dropped the mic in there a little while ago, but don't think too much about it. But dry it off, and while you have it, why don't you go ahead and tell me what your guys' thoughts are regarding the post-game for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Do you think it has a shot? Do you think it's going to be ass? Do you think that we should follow the recipe of the previous games? Do you think we should just continue collecting, legendary Pokemon and things like that? Tell me everything in the comment section below, because you know for a fact that I am always down there with you guys. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave it at that. I would like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this. And with that, I'm gonna get the hell up out. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!